10/23/23. We're here for our daily session, getting the light set up in the background as well. Here for our calendar, important things on the data front, all of that we go over in order to lay the landscape, right? You need to know the lay of the land in order to effectively navigate that land. So that is exactly what we do each and every Monday. So it's arguably the most important session of the week in terms of analysis. Most definitely the most important, pre-market prep session of the week. That's why we call it the Deluxe session. So if you can't tune into any of them, you should tune into all of them. But if you can only tune into one, right, you want it to be this one because we go over what to expect out of the week ahead. Also for, our Monday specific news. So let me go ahead and see if we can get these. Get these colored lights going in the background. I'm trying to remember what scene I had, and we'll kind of, give it a second as people make their way in. Maybe we'll go back to the wave, kind of like the wave. Actually, the camera kind of struggles with the wave. Maybe we'll go bubbles. There we go. That's nice and fun. So while we have our success bubbling to the surface as we begin our Monday endeavors, right? We want to dive into the week ahead. So our top news in the week ahead, we've got a huge week of earnings reports that have the potential to shift the focus of investors away from the headlines of the Middle East and surging treasury yields. Some of the heavyweights due to report include Amazon, ticker AMZN, Microsoft, MSFT, Meta Platforms, ticker META, Coca-Cola, ticker KO, AbbVie, whose ticker is ABBV, and Chevron, whose ticker is CVX. So a number of big companies reporting this week that can move markets. The European Central Bank will also announce its interest rate decision on October 26th, so midway through the week. The ECB, which is the European Central Bank, is expected to hold rates steady after firing off 450 points of rate hikes since July 2022. As for the Federal Reserve, members will be in a blackout period ahead of next FOMC meeting in November. But the higher for how much longer guessing game will go on. For its part, BNP Paribas expects the Federal Reserve to hold rates steady for the rest of 2023 and not lower rates until June of 2024. While Seeking Alpha analyst John M. Mason reminded that the Fed, reminded that the Fed has no intention to go soft on inflation, and Seeking Alpha analyst Mott Capital Management warned the Fed's policy change challenges are also a stock market obstacle. So in terms of important earnings this week, nothing super important today, but tomorrow on October 24th, we have Microsoft and Google that both report, as well as Visa and Coca-Cola, Texas Instruments, and General Electric. So we really kick into high gear tomorrow in terms of the earnings. And then we stay, ramped up with Meta reporting on Wednesday, T-Mobile as well, Boeing, and General Dynamics. General Dynamics, a company that's involved on the security front, right, the weapons front, and with what's going on right now, this war in Israel, General Dynamics, right, what they have to say will definitely be under the microscope. In terms of Thursday, we have Amazon reporting, MasterCard, whose ticker is MA, Merck Pharmaceuticals, whose ticker is MRK, Altria, whose ticker is MO, and Chipotle Mexican Grill, whose ticker is CMG. We've also got Northrop Grumman, another defense company, whose ticker is NOC, and then United Parcel Service, UPS, right, which is also their ticker. Then Friday, ExxonMobil, right, who we traded last week to great avail, they report. CVX, right, Chevron, they report. And then AbbVie, ticker ABBV, they report on Friday as well. So if you go on the daily chart on Thinkorswim, it tells you all of the if it's before market hours or after market hours that they report. So just make sure that you're aware of what companies are reporting, when they're reporting, and stay on top of that. And I'll probably post a little earnings calendar here on my story. But you can always just search earnings for this week, 2023, and a nice, neat, tidy calendar will come up. So that's, something else you want to add on to your kind of pre-market steps, making sure that you're checking during earnings season which companies are reporting earnings. So we've got, a number of different opportunities for post-earnings plays that I'm very excited about. We'll see how that ends up shaking out there. Now, in terms of events, key events, Qualcomm will update on its innovation plans as part of the company's Snapdragon Summit on October 24th. The Women's Wear Daily Apparel and Retail CEO Summit will feature a long list of notable speakers, including Macy's CEO Jeff Jeanette, Prada CEO Andrea Guerra, and then Abercrombie and Fitch CEO Fran Horowitz, Saks CEO Mark Metrick, and Neiman Marcus Group CEO Jeffrey von Romdock. Let's see what else we got going on. Anthropic co-founder and chief scientist Jared Kaplan will be one of the speakers at the Bloomberg Technology Summit. Anthropic is a big company on the artificial intelligence front. Amazon recently disclosed that it will invest up to $4 billion in the San Francisco-based artificial intelligence startup. So Microsoft backing ChatGPT and OpenAI, and then Amazon backing Anthropic. Now, let's go back up. On October 25th, shareholders of Capri Holdings will vote on the takeover from Tapestry. Not really important news there. What else? Anything else important? Short interest levels are elevated on Groupon, Zenx, and C3.ai. Anything else super important? Not really. Let's go and check our Market Watch calendar for this week. Right, we don't just want to look at our Wall Street breakfast newsletter. We want to make sure that we are, double checking all the different data that we have dropping with Market Watch. So you just search Market Watch, economic calendar, and it'll come up. I tend to always have this up as a tab on my laptop. Now, let's see here. Tuesday, October 24th, we get PMI data, Flash U.S. Services PMI. And manufacturing data, we get that at 9:45 a.m. tomorrow. So we will get data tomorrow. No data today. Today might be a slower day. We, are heading into an earnings week. We have no data that's scheduled. We also have no major earnings today. Wednesday, new home sales, but nothing super important. Thursday, GDP data and jobless claims. So Thursday, 8:30 a.m. Thursday, pre-market, we have important data that's coming out. So make sure you have that in the back of your head for anything that you swing from Wednesday into Thursday, because Thursday we have some important data, even pending home sales at 10 a.m. So we've got a lot of data coming out Thursday morning before market open. And then Friday, we get PCE, right? So inflation, another measure of inflation. So we get that at 8:30 a.m. before market open. So Thursday and Friday, the biggest days on the economic calendar in terms of data that gets dropped pre-market. So again, make sure whatever you need to do, you could have a blank kind of, dry erase board calendar, by your desk or wherever it is that you trade, and just have this stuff written in, right? So that each and every day you set a reminder using Alexa, right? Setting a reminder. Try to whisper a name, set a reminder to say, hey, remind me at 3 p.m. the day before, right? As you're going into power hour, you get reminded that you have data the next day. In that way, right, you're not going super, super heavy, or, you're just managing expectations. Again, you might say, oh, Adam, this seems like a lot, but you take 30 seconds to do it, and you don't have to worry about getting tripped up on a trade that could cost you hundreds or thousands of dollars, right? So it's one of those things where the juice is worth the squeeze. Let's see what else we got going on here. Now, in terms of Monday specific news, let's get into that. Through October 20, let's go. October 23rd. All right, so opening the books. Let's get into our Monday specific news. Our top news, there's a lot on the plate for investors this week as they continue to work their way through earnings season. Headlines are now shifting from the big banks to mega cap tech, with Tesla already kicking things off last week for the Magnificent Seven. The major tech players have already witnessed big gains in 2023 from the artificial intelligence frenzy, and their quarterly results could spark outsized impacts in the broader market. So putting it in perspective, the 5 biggest companies in the S&P 500, Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet, who owns Google, Amazon, and NVIDIA, represent about a quarter of the benchmark index's market cap. 3 of them will report this week. So there are 5 companies that pretty much represent the majority of the S&P, right, or represent a lot of the S&P. They represent a quarter of the benchmark of the benchmark index's market cap, right? So a quarter of the S&P, but they pretty much determine which way the market goes, right? Whenever the market is bleeding up or pushing up, it's because tech companies are doing that, right? Whenever the market drops, it's also because tech companies are doing that. So these are the most influential entities, in the market and somewhat in the world. So it's very important, right? When people say earnings week, right, this is something that can move markets. It definitely can. Many hope that bumper results and a significant jump in year-over-year numbers will put their hefty weightings to work, helping make up for other industries that might be going through an earnings slump. In fact, one of the many reasons that earnings expectations for the S&P 500 are forecast to be flat this quarter is because of the Big Five. Without the mega cap tech group, earnings on average for S&P 500 companies will be down 5%. So Meta Platforms, ticker META, will report this week, while Apple is waiting until the beginning of November, followed by NVIDIA. Trading individual earnings can be difficult to predict, with perhaps some of the numbers already baked in or resulting in sell the news events. So it's more important to pay attention to the overall sector. This is them speaking, not me speaking, but you can hear some of my sentiment being echoed within that statement. This year's returns of the tech majors have also been a big surprise based on the sentiment going into 2023, but the heavyweights have held their ground and then some. So what to watch? Will Google see accelerated growth in search and YouTube, as well as progress in the commercialization of Gen AI products? What about the user base and new offerings at Meta? Will personal computing weigh on Microsoft, and can Amazon reassure investors that AWS is still the cloud computing leader? Right? This is all important stuff to watch as we get these earnings reports this week. Artificial intelligence will also be a buzzword on all of the earnings calls, but pay attention to margins given all AI investment, R&D, and IT spending. So very important questions they'll be looking for answers to as these companies report this week. In terms of healthcare news, Merger Monday rang in with two major multi-billion-dollar deals. Chevron, ticker CVX, will acquire Hess Corp, ticker HES, in a $53 billion all-stock deal to expand its DJ and Permian Basin operations. The news comes in less than 2 weeks after ExxonMobil announced its $60 billion acquisition of Pioneer Natural Resources. The deal pushed Chevron stock 3% lower, while Hess rose over 2%. Separately, Roche will buy Televant Holdings from Roivant Sciences and Pfizer for $7.1 billion upfront. The deal includes the development and commercialization rights in the U.S. and Japan for RVT-3101, the new therapy that is being tested to treat inflammatory bowel disease. The news sent Roivant soaring 15% before the bell. Now, in terms of global news, to the polls. The ruling Peronist coalition in Argentina led the general election on Sunday, smashing expectations and setting the stage for a polarized runoff vote next month. Argentinian traders are bracing for a stock market sell-off on Monday as Economy Minister Sergio Massa's lead in the election dashed hopes for a win by a more market-friendly candidate, libertarian radical Javier Milei. Note that Argentina is headed for its sixth recession in a decade in the backdrop of triple-digit inflation and a currency that's lost around 90% of its value in the last 5 years alone. Seeking Alpha analyst Calafia Beach Pundit said Milei's plans to ditch the peso, quote, is the only sensible thing to do, though it may prove tricky to implement. So Argentina in a really tough spot. They have been for a long time. I had the privilege of being able to see Lionel Messi play for Inter Miami when I was in Florida 2 weeks ago. And it was pretty awesome to see, he's kind of like the LeBron, but even more so of the most popular sport in the world. But just even hearing like stories of people that would live in Argentina, because that's where he's from and he plays for their national team, like sell their houses just to see him play in the World Cup. And it was like the majority of people there are so poor anyways, it like didn't matter. They were just like, at least I get to go see my favorite sports player play and then just come back to even more poverty. So yeah, it's a sad situation going on. I'm hoping that whoever gets elected can make some change there. But it's just tough, especially too when you're someone that's rich in natural resources. There's always going to be corruption, and it's tough if that never ends up getting rooted out. So we'll see what happens in Argentina. But as of right now, we got a runoff on the way, and the polls are heating up. In terms of media news, negotiations resume. So SAG-AFTRA, the labor union representing Hollywood actors, and the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, AMPTP, will resume negotiations on Tuesday, nearly 2 weeks after talks broke down over actors' demand for a cut of streaming services revenue. Quote, as we mark the 100th day of our strike, company executives have asked us to return to the table, SAG-AFTRA said. Hollywood actors have been on strike since July over demands for higher pay, better working conditions, and guardrails for AI use, among others. Writers in the industry had also been on strike, but it ended last month after the negotiating parties reached a deal. So the writers reached a deal. The actors still have not. I don't blame the actors. You've got to get this written out right? And in plain black and white now, because AI is coming for actors, right? Again, at the end of the day, these actors really won't have to do much, to be honest. If I license out my likeness, just like we saw on Black Mirror on Netflix, Tom Cruise can be in 10 movies over the course of a year, right? When you start thinking about the applications of that, now, do you get paid as much? No, right? They're licensing your likeness, but with AI, you can make movies without actors even needing to be present, right? And you can make them do, unfortunately, right, for better or for worse, whatever you want. And I doubt that they also have any type of sliding scale where they get paid more if it does better, based off of how the movie releases, right? They probably pay you a certain amount up front to use your likeness, and then you don't get any bonuses from there. So I would definitely be taking my time if I was, on the actors front. It is tough. I'm sure there are a lot of actors that were already struggling, and now, they're really having to bootstrap it. But this is in order to ensure job security, right, and competitive nature for the next 20 years in the acting sector. So, you want to make sure you get it right. In terms of markets here, pretty much all red across the board except for Bitcoin. So in Asia, Japan were down 0.8%, Hong Kong closed, China down 1.5%, India down 1.3%. In Europe, the FTSE in London down 0.5%, Paris down 0.2%, Frankfurt down 0.8%. The Dow, as of 7 a.m., the Dow was down 0.6, S&P down 0.6, NASDAQ down 0.7, crude oil down 0.7, gold down 0.3, Bitcoin up 2.1%. Yeah, not surprised at that given the close that we got on Friday. Should be a nice green profit-taking day today, based off of the puts that were swung, right? In terms of what else is happening, we'll finish up here with our rapid-fire stock news rundown. Stone Peak to buy shipping container firm Textainer for $50 per share. Japan to investigate Google over search dominance. So Google really getting investigated and sued all over the place when it comes to the anti-competitive nature of their search dominance and their dominance of the search sector, right? IEA, global spending on power grids must double to meet climate goals. Foxconn faces tax investigation in China. Stock falls 2%. That's important. Foxconn provides a lot of the major components for the iPhone, right? And a lot of other tech that we use day in and day out. Midwest CO2 pipeline project canceled to, excuse me, I'm just going to redo this. Midwest CO2 pipeline project canceled in blow to Biden climate plans. Headcounts come into focus. Banks Q3 earnings calls. P10, whose ticker is PX, appoints Goldman veteran Luke Sarsfield as CEO. The new titles drive 10% jump in U.S. video game sales for September. Alphabet and Meta well positioned to benefit from digital ad growth. Then earnings week ahead, Amazon, Microsoft, and more. So that'll wrap us up, right, and take us out as we dive into this next week of opportunity. I'm excited to get into it, excited to get after it, right? Again, you don't want that to ever lead you to making moves and forcing things that there's no reason to do, forcing things there's no reason to force, but you also want to make sure that you are on your toes and ready to take advantage, right, of the leverage that knowledge of options and knowledge of the market can provide you with. So without further ado, let's dive into what we got going on today. Everybody have a great day in markets. I'll see you back here tomorrow morning for our next pre-market prep session of the week. Have a good one.